The Fly, Chapter 6. The Fly as Chemist and Electricity Distributor. March 18, 1842. Often you will have noticed that flies gladly set themselves in a place where there is something on which they can nibble. Therefore, they are often found in great numbers as uninvited guests at mealtime, and go at the food with great voracity. Also, you will have noticed that these guests are more numerous when the day is exceptionally sultry, and the meals are served in rooms which have a low ceiling and are musty smelling. Again, there arises a question, and many may ask, yes, should we then praise these little parasites when they soil our food and often become unbearable with every bite we put into our mouths? However, I say to you, the short-sighted man so asks, judges, and becomes irate. But if he could see and fully understand the service the fly performs for him, when it lights only for 2 seconds on a bite or on a spoon on the way to his mouth, really, he would not be overdoing it if he had the fly gold-plated. Notice then, on a really sultry day, all foods, with very few exceptions, have the property, due to their sugar content, of attracting all the nitrogen from the air. If the food is then left standing, even for a short time, this bad air makes its presence known. Firstly, the food sours easily. Some become mouldy. Some alter their colour, and some, where the food is not so thick, get a dull blue appearance around the edges. See, these are all effects of the spoiled air. Yes, but what does the fly do there? Well, since the fly, as we have learned, is a little flying electric flask, it is also hungry and eager for everything belonging to its natural sphere. The corrupted air consists of negative electricity and repulses the positive electricity, often to such an extent that there isn't a spark of positive electricity left in the room, or rather, in the food consumed therein. Everyone may ask of himself, quite often, if none of these vessels of electricity were found in such a room, how would it affect the health of a human body? But that is of the least importance, for as long as the corrupt air occupies the entire room, it has enough elasticity to expand the lungs when it is inhaled. However, once this air has lost its elasticity, it descends as musty dew upon its kind, which, in this instance, is the negative food. Then, when someone begins to take a bite of the food, which has been covered many times by the musty dew, one or more of the flies gladly set on it and allow the excess positive electricity to fall upon the object over which they crawl, that is, the morsel of food. Now, what is the result of this act? I answer, nothing more and nothing less than this. The descended foul air is quickly reanimated and rises, leaving the food harmless again and suitable for consumption. Whereas, if these little bothersome chemists were not present on such a sultry day, especially in such a low-ceilinged, musty-smelling room, a person would seldom live past the mealtime. Now, how do you like this secondary service? Isn't it something wonderful? And it is still as effective today as it was in ancient times. Perhaps you may think and reply, "Now, that is too extraordinary. Should a fly have that wider sphere of action?" Thus I say to you, not only one such sphere of activity, of which you know only a tiny part, but this unpretentious little creation has so great a sphere of activity that, to your understanding, it is almost endless. For, if I were to explain everything about this little animal to you, 100,000 scribes, working night and day without pause, would not finish the task in 1,000,000 years. Therefore, do not marvel too much over these few points, which I have revealed to you. Whoever wants to go in the right direction, let him consider this, that with me, every ever so seemingly insignificant thing has an endless worth. Such thinking will be beneficial for everyone since, for example, they will keep a person in a constant state of humility, and on the other hand, they will illustrate the standing of a truly righteous man, who is surely more important than 1,000,000,000,000 flies. Since we are on the subject of flies, we will not measure a man's worth here, but will pay a little more attention to the discussed secondary purposes of the fly. You might have also noticed that these satiated flies like to fly onto shining objects and, quite often, get them dirty all over. My dear children, you might ask yourselves, should that too be something useful? Oh yes, I tell you, this is something very useful. And without this activity, the previously discussed chemical work of this animal would be only half done, if the second insignificant activity did not soon follow. We have already learned that the fly takes mostly electrical negative nourishment, and so is a true poison sucker from the air that men and animals breathe, as well as from the foods men eat. Therefore, its refuse, if no longer harmful and poisonous, can only be electrically negative. We also know that the positive electricity collects mostly on polished objects. See, now we will soon have it. Thus, in a room with very little positive electricity, what there is will surround the polished objects. The positive electricity being properly distributed, the little chemists smear these shiny objects diligently so that they, more and more, lose their strength to attract the positive electricity, which is necessary and indispensable for the air in the room. Should you find this difficult to believe, place a gilded object in such a room, and you can be assured that in a short time it will be so smeared by these chemists that you will hardly see any gold glittering through. Yes, but why do these animals have such a passion for gold? To that I reply, why do you gild your lightning rods? Your answer must be, because gold very strongly attracts electricity. Then you will say, but the flies also soil window panes and glass is not known to attract electricity. That is indeed true, but on the other hand, I ask you, why are panes of glass or glass cylinders used to make the electricity, which is free in the air, visible by lightly rubbing them. See, now I have caught you again, and answer as follows. Because the electricity likes to collect on the glass, and, when the glass is rubbed a little, the electricity becomes visible. Now that we know this, we can let our little chemists soil to their heart's content. Thus the surface of these electricity holders get rougher and less capable of holding the positive electricity, which is then forced to mingle properly with the air in the room. How do you respond to this? As you review these statements with a little attention. Now, what answer should one give to a person who, with his high reasoning power, disclaims the purpose of man? Oh, what wicked foolishness! If I arrange it so that even the smallest and most insignificant creation has a very important purpose, and prescribe the fly a usefulness in all its seemingly insignificant functions, how much more would I provide for man, who is not only my creation, but truly a child of my love, or at least should become one, which means that he should recognize that I am a father to him, not simply a creator, as I am to the stones and clumps of earth. Yes, even a marginally devout childlike heart has to say that I give fatherly care to the silent grass in the field. And such is true, yes, very true, for only the Father gives food and drink to all things, whatever food and drink they may require. But if I give fatherly care to the dumb things in this manner, how much more fatherly care will I give to those beings who came forth as children of my love, truly in my image? Mark this well. It is surely worth the effort to observe my fatherly care in all minute things, so that it might become clear to the doubter that I am not an all-consuming, unfathomable power God, but am solely and alone a true father to all my dear children, and that I am not a wasteful father, but an exceedingly economical one, who even puts the dung of the fly to the best use for his children. Yes, I tell you, there are still countless other and more insignificant things, and still I don't let even the minutest thing perish. And since I am, therefore, not the all-consuming God, but a Father preserving the smallest things, and also an exceedingly faithful economist for my children, how great must be the blindness of a man who wants to contest my constant, all-encompassing fatherly care for my children. Oh, my dear children, do believe me, I am occupied day and night caring even for the growth of every hair on your body, which will soon perish together with your body. Then how much more will I care for your immortal souls and your eternal spirit out of me? Yes, yes, my dear ones, just observe these little flies. They really sing to you of victory, which you will come to recognize more and more in the following positive polarity presentation. Thus, let us leave it at that for today.